You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Okay. Greetings, everybody. Where are the people in the house? Where are you guys? I think we did announce that we're coming live today, and I should be seeing a lot of people. Okay, most of you are joining. And do not worry, we have our guests, our junior queens. Reparations was already asking me, hey, Dr. Tatah, when you say the young queens, do I fall in that category? I'm like, yes, of course, you are. What about me? If I say the junior queens, does it mean that I am not part of the queens? So people, we are live on Pan-African Daily. We want to share some cookies with you tonight, okay? You all know that I've been, hovering, exploring the continent of Africa, particularly Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And tonight, a lot of people have so many questions. What was I even doing there in the first place? And why did it take me so long out there? So, I mean, I have all these kind of questions. It just makes me laugh. But of course, we have our queens here who are going to actually moderate these conversations. And you also that are watching me, please get ready for your questions. If you have any questions, this year on Pan-African Daily and everything that we've been talking about, but particularly today, we want to touch the topic Addis Ababa because it's still very fresh in our memories. Addis Ababa is the hub of the continent. Like it or not, it is not for any reason that the African Union, is actually in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. It is also not just for any reason that Ethiopia was never colonized. And so it is just also not for any reason that we have all the world bodies from United Nations, from European nation or European whatever, and all other bodies. They've been established in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, way long, even before the organization of the African Union. So Ethiopia, Addis Ababa is becoming the hub of Africa, not just because of its, corridor projects, but also because of the importance that the main house of the continent is hosted right there. And we wonder why, people just slide in, go get business on the continent, negotiate issues. And we keep thinking that Ethiopia is just another ordinary town or city or country on the continent of Africa like any other one. No, this is bigger, way bigger. And today we want to dissect this, the importance of this particular country. That is actually the land of the origins. And these are also things that I think you should be curious about. As we talked about the topic Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, you must have gone through to research, what is this all about? What is the land of the origin? They never were colonized. They defeated the Italians at the Battle of Adwa. Questions of religion, the Ethiopian Orthodox. What does it mean? In terms of our religion and spirituality. What about the culture of the people? What about the mindset? So there's a lot of things that I know that you Africans are anxious. You're actually waiting. You're thirsty to get this feedback and answers. From being there on the continent. It's been a beautiful time out there. I can never lie to you. The food, the people, the culture, the language. Like, I just literally want to go back. And of course, the one biggest thing that I got in Ethiopia, I got a family, all right? Like you just go there, they adopt you. I was adopted. I have a family now that is mine. I have a son in Ethiopia. Can you imagine that? So a lot of things are going to happen in 2025. So, but we're rounding up these shows with the young queens on the Pan African Daily TV. And as you're going to begin to see, the Pan African Daily is actually becoming the African woman media. Mm. I'm so sorry to say it, but that's the way it looks like because the young girls are hot. They are hot. They're coming on board. And of course, I also brought one big good news from one of the champion ladies on the continent, and she gave us an assignment on Pan African Daily TV to create African Women Leadership Network. It means all the women in leadership. We have the responsibility on Pan African Daily TV to create that network. Whether they are women in business or they're women in spirituality or they're women in politics or women in science or what, we have the obligation from the powerhouse of the continent to create, particularly the diaspora Africa Women Leadership Network. Okay, so 2025, we got work to do. All right, so I think we're really getting in here. I want to bring in my queens, the junior queens on the Pan African Women Media Voices that will be coming up and hosting on this platform, and a lot of them are just coming up. African women just want to share their stories. They want to beautify the continent. They say it's enough, it's enough of this too much politics and everything. The mothers of the continent and their African young girls or women leadership, I met all sort of networks out there that we never thought existed. So everybody is ready for 2025 for us to make the Africa we want a beautiful space where mothers sit together and lead, not lead because the men cannot, but bring the mother mind and the mother spirit. So please welcome with me. I'll bring Ewerton. You know her. It's not something that we have to talk about it so much again. I mean, this beautiful, sweet, sweet sister right here. She's been on Pan African Daily TV as a voice, as a empowerment, and she's always in the Pan African Daily TV WhatsApp group and moderating and doing a lot of beautiful stuff out there. Even if you are not with me in the studio today and you are an African queen out there watching me, whether on Facebook or on YouTube, please make sure you are gathered here. You're gathered here because the new beginning has just started right now, as you can see. Okay. So we have our sister here, a young one, and I'm going to bring another African women voice. This is right here, the women that are going to be pioneering the voices of the continent and particularly Pan African Daily TV. Yes. So Venice is here. You also know her beautifully. Well seated. Oh my God, I love your braids. You guys are challenging today. Right. You are challenging today, honestly. And then I'm also going to bring our sister, Reparations. Reparations is right here tonight, of course. Yes, she's right here. Mary Elizabeth, I salute you in the chat. Brother Elder Marvin Gaye, I salute you. Cheryl. Cheryl is an honorable member. You can see the signs and everything. Thank you, sister. Johnny is right here, and everybody is here. Wow. I know that you've been missing us a lot. So, girls, how are you doing? The queens, the new faces on Pan African Daily TV. I start with Ewoton. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous, excited for 2025. I was having this conversation with you and I was telling you I feel like I'm already in 2025. The energy is surprisingly amazing about the year, but I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Venice,
Mhm.
how are we today? Venice? Oh, she's hanging. Venice, can you hear us? Reparation, how are you? The Queen of
I'm
Ghana.
I'm great, Dr. Tata, and how is everybody? Beautiful family. I'm so happy that we are meeting again. We've missed our queen and our guidance. So it's a beautiful thing to be here in the presence of all these beautiful queens.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What happened? I mean, when I looked at the elections in Ghana, reparations, I thought your name would be on it. And I saw the vice president was a woman. I was like, yes, that is reparation. What happened? Did we do something wrong? What should we correct?
20, 2028.
That's for Tab.
Exactly, 2028. Of course, we need to work hard. We need to work hard to put it, yes, to make it work. Wonderful. So, yes, I think you have a lot of questions. I'm just going to give over the floor to you, Ewoton. I mean, you're the
Right.
leading. You guys are the one. I'm just the guest on this show tonight.
Alrighty.
So you and reparations are going to be the one to moderate the conversation and how we go from here.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to actually be on this platform as always. We've missed you so much. I'm so excited to see you, honestly. And I believe, as I always say, it's time to redefine the cause of Africa and the fact that you were in Ethiopia. I know here in Kenya, because I'm located in Kenya right now, there's so much hunger and desperation for change because a lot of the youth here, a lot of the Gen Zs are woke. They're questioning everything that is happening in the government. It's like we're watching the leaders, what they're doing, what they're drinking, everything. Everything is being questioned, right? So you cannot really fool the individuals here in Kenya, mostly the youth. So the question is in regards to you being in Addis Ababa, did you see the hunger for change? I know you've said it's the hub of Africa. Did you see that desperation for change, for betterment of the cause of the government, and also the power to just take back Africa and basically redefine it the way it was before colonization or before the course of change that happened and we had to start from the ground. Did you see that hunger?
Oh, in Ethiopia, I think like the whole of Africa, it is actually, like you said, um, the hunger for a new Africa, the hunger for an Africa that belongs to Africans, the 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 power and the energy that is circulating is speaking a lot to people on the continent, and particularly the Ethiopian people. But it's a little bit kind of different, and it actually would surprise you to understand that when I spoke to most Ethiopians, they have the impression as if I have the impression that they want to discover the West.
Right.
Definitely, probably because they were not colonized. So they are curious. That curiosity is making them. And that's why you see, like, their language is so unique. You understand? They speak only Amharic, and their food is not colonized. They still eat indigenously with their fingers, proudly doing that. And they keep their values, but because they keep these values, I think on the other side they are curious to discover the West because they never were colonized, contrary to us in West and Africa, where we had the experiences. We already know that this is what they did to us and we don't want it. And so you can understand how the Ethiopian, and I actually do understand them. Like, all right, we were us, we're indigenous, we keep our systems and everything. But another thing is you have to understand, Ethiopia, like the hub of Africa, is actually where all these world bodies are. So they though they keeping their indigenous cultures and systems, but you still find that power of Europeanism actually active right there. You could feel it. You see the embassies. I mean, the American embassy is always the biggest everywhere they go. The British embassy, the consuls and stuff, and you see the presence of the West is actually there. The mindset that you're saying, because they never were colonized, I still have a little bit of I think I need time to actually see to feel that in them. But I think the major things that you would see is that they're proud of their culture. They kept their language, they kept their food, they kept their indigenous culture, and that's why when you go to Ethiopia, you have the impression that you're actually a foreigner on the continent, actually, because they don't speak no foreign language like English and stuff. They're so proud of
Right.
their language, and so that question or something like that is not actually what I think is in the forefront of them questioning. But of course, they need change, like every other African country. Apart from the fact that um, uh, Ethiopia was never colonized, uh, is still a country on the continent of Africa, and yeah. But the one good things that I love so much is the fact that um, the importance of Africa. I mean, I just want to first of all get us into this picture. When we speak
Okay.
about Africa, we I have the impression like we speak about it as if it's a country, exactly like what we're doing, as if it's a small, like we just talk about the Africa and the kind of political changes or stuff that we're going through. Africa is the second largest continent in the world. The second, I mean, when we say the second largest, you can imagine that the world, let's say the world have 6 billion or 5 billion people. Africa alone, I mean, the continentals are 1.4 billion. So you could already see that portion that has been chopped. And then plus its diaspora, say 200 million or 300 million, you could already imagine, I mean, just the population. It's a massive number that we're talking about here. Is the second largest continent. And when we come now to talk about Ethiopia, Ethiopia is the 10th largest in the world. Okay, the 10th, population in the world. I mean, the third on the continent, but of course the 10th in the world. So you already imagine the space that Ethiopia has. And then when we take Nigeria and Congo and Ethiopia, just like the three of them, I mean, you could already measure up. Even Europe is not part of it. So when we talk about Africa, sometimes I think we simplify some of these things. We actually a continent that is the second largest and the richest in mineral resources and has a GDP of 3 trillion. Okay, 3 trillion in GDP. And when we talk about this, sometimes we just talk as if it's just a normal, it's just like a country, like a European nation, right? We look at the history also. We look at the history and the history of slavery and the history of colonization. And then you put the landmass and its resources and all its historical facts. So Africa becomes so massive for us to always really simplify the topic of which country is what. It's a massive thing. So I think for my experiences or what we see, or even though we are engaged and we criticize the AU, we criticize the reform, we criticize nearly everything, it seems as if we're just criticizing one country that is like, for instance, Ethiopia. But we're talking about a continent that is the second largest, that has a challenge in its history, its past. Okay, apart from Ethiopia, but you also would see the fact that Ethiopia also is not really actually different because it's a part of the continent. So when we are talking about Africa, we have to first of all have that, wow, how did we even, go through all these histories and we are here? I think, in that case.
Alrighty, that's beautiful. And also, I believe that if I can continue the last question before maybe reparation joins in,
Okay.
you said Ethiopia is the hub of Africa. Does this, I believe this entails that it's in the terms of development? Are they building organizations that are telling our own story, right? Because we are all Africans. So, in regards to, we have a lot of organizations here which are not controlled by Africans. And talking about redefining Africa is about building our own organizations, telling our own story, and that's when we take back our power. Are they doing that, or in terms of building and development, taking charge of rightfully what belongs to Africans?
I think to answer to that question, yes,
Mhm.
Ethiopia is the hub. When we say the hub, like, um, let me just take an example of Dubai. Now we
Okay.
see a lot of Africans going to Dubai, definitely because of the infrastructures, isn't it? Apart
That's
from the infrastructures, if you put culture, you put the feeling of being at home, no African would want to be out anywhere. So the spirit of togetherness, mankind, humanity, I don't think you can find it anywhere. But the spirit of like development of skyscrapers, infrastructures, good access to, yeah, underground trains, flights, and stuff. Um, Ethiopia is actually coming up to be that hub that that we see Dubai today, which we see
okay.
Singapore today. I mean, you go to Ethiopia, like Addis Ababa, particularly, they have these projects that they call the corridor projects. And I think that's how Dubai just came from nowhere. I mean, if you can look back before 2020 and others, we nobody was talking about Dubai. Okay. And after some
That
time,
is true.
it's just as if it just came from nowhere. We just saw
Right.
the skyscrapers and the stuff going on. So it means the people actually just came to a point where they say, our infrastructures is actually what is going to be the face of Dubai. All right. And that's what has actually boosted the tourism and the market out there. Same thing like Singapore. We never heard about all these countries before. And suddenly we just see it came from nowhere. So Ethiopia is doing that kind of like refurbishing. Like they are actually constructing. You go everywhere. The corridor projects are everywhere. I mean, honestly, I did a lot of videos and stuff like that. I don't want to share anything here because like it's gonna be like exactly that's what I thought they did also to their system. There's some things that is just our business. It's just
Right.
for us not to show everything in the public. Like, we're so generous with information, we're so generous with everything that we
Mhm.
say. But Ethiopia is just focused on making that hub, that dream that the African child is always thinking that, oh no, I need to go to Dubai now. I need to go and ride camels and horses and stuff like that. I think you already saw me on one of the horses. But just to show you that we have it, we have all the stuffs coming up. I don't think I'm not saying in the next 5 years, the development I saw on the ground is not going to take us 2, 3 months. If you go to Ethiopia, to Addis Ababa, particularly, if you go to Addis Ababa in March, you're going to see another continent that just comes up. Okay. And then in terms of this, like you said, are they telling us stories? Of course, the fact that Ethiopia was never colonized, the fact that the Battle of Adwa lasted just for 2 hours after the whole of the Ethiopian army had prepared for years, but the Ethiopians could defeat them for just 2 hours. It lasted for 2 hours because when we talk about the Battle of Adwa, we think it's a whole, century that they fought. No, it lasted for 2 hours, and they were beaten and chased out of Ethiopia. Now, but don't you still see the traces of Europeanism on the continent? Of course, it is because we're living in a global world, and now we want to begin to understand why the rush and the scramble for Africa started. Not only because of that, to tell our stories. Where did the organization of the African Union begin? It began in Ethiopia. You
Right.
understand? I really literally went to the Ethiopian museum, and I have all the speeches, the documents, the script. Every president when they came, what they said, I have it on a manuscript. Or and I was actually in that room where they met, in 1963. And I saw different documents even before the organization of the African Union. There already was the power The PAO was the Pan-African Women Organization that was founded in 1961, 2 years before, the organization of the African Union. And you see even the history of Ethiopian Airlines. Thank you, Mary. You're already saying it. Ethiopian Airlines, you understand? The history of it itself is a Pan-African Airlines. And at the University for Ethiopian Studies, where I visited, you have a whole department for Pan-Africanism, Pan-African heroes and sheroes. You could find a big painting of Marcus Garvey. You could find a big painting of Nkwame Nkrumah and all the pictures of Haile Selassie, how he brought this union together. I mean, you enter into that library, just that section, you get goosebumps. Like I literally went even into his bedroom, and into the bedroom of her queen, and the role that the queen played during the liberation of Adwa is massive. Even the queen of Menelik II, who was the predecessor of Haile Selassie. I mean, the rich history of Africa is buried in Ethiopia, and that's why. And Ewotan, actually, Africa was called Ethiopia. Africa is just the name that came after the continent. Africa was called Ethiopia. If you look at the original map of Africa, it was Ethiopia. You understand? So you see, the histories should not even be told. It is written. It is
Right.
there. And then the one thing that I realize and I understand, the spirit, that spirit of humility, the spirit of, like, Ethiopians, they worship the guest that come in, particularly if you're African. And they have something they call, you are our black guest. I heard it for the first time in Ethiopia. Like literally, when you visit Addis Ababa, you can see an elderly person, your father, could be your grandmother, that will give you a space in front of a car because they call you a black guest. And a black guest for them is the highest symbol of respect that they give to you as an African child or daughter or coming from anywhere into the country. And so they consider you like an honorable guest. Okay. So Ethiopia has um, that foundation, that spirit of unity, of solidarity, that spirit of not looking, oh, who are you, or this, or where you come from. Look, that's the one damage that colonialism did to us in West African countries and Central Africa. We have an urge, we have, I don't know, an inferiority complex. That's what I will call.
Right.
Okay? You look at the modern things, the way we try to fight with cutleries, the way we are ashamed even to portray who we are. Ethiopians don't have that complex. You really could see it in the way they are humble, in the way they respect their guests, in the way they want to help you. Ethiopia is one of those countries. I've been to many other African countries that they, at the airport, they don't take tips, even in their bars. You go to the
Right.
bar, they serve you, you eat, and you give somebody a tip, and they tell you, no, thank you, welcome home. Okay, so despite the fact that they're going through these corridor projects, and the corridor projects is actually costing that economy enormous, you can imagine, enormous wealth, and even to actually like take away the other community centers to be able to bring these kind of modern structures, even though they're relocated to other centers. The people leaving their communities that they were used to, it's painful. I can imagine. But they do it in such a subtle way, in such a humble manner. Like they understand that at some point, we would not have to live like this. We have to move ahead, like development and in terms of infrastructures and stuff. So, honestly speaking, that is the point where we want to start 2025 to. That's why they also call themselves, not just themselves, but Africa, the land of the origins, because the The one biggest thing I want to tell, I will share some pictures with you, but I want to first of all explain the background to you and all our listeners and our viewers, those of you that are watching us. It, you know, the fact that they were not colonized. And you also would understand Ethiopia is a landlocked country. They don't have any seaport to work and to collaborate with the others. They have these corridor projects. Like Djibouti is where they actually connect their railway or get access to the sea. But Ethiopian, even in terms of spirituality, I'm telling you, like, I don't know, as I learned fasting in Ethiopia for this time. On on Wednesdays and Friday, they don't eat meat. Okay, it's just a normal tradition, like everybody just knows it. The Orthodox Christians, because which is the majority of it, they have the Orthodox Christian, then they have the Muslims, they have the Arabs and stuff, and the other many religious bodies, but the Orthodox Christian are the majority, and they have a symbol around them. It is not this kind of Christianity that we just pick on the mouth. It is this kind of spirituality that you feel it in the people, the commitment in their way of engaging. Even though when I talk to them, sometimes they're like, yeah, we we were brought this Orthodox Christianity upon us, but it is the origin of that substance of cultural preservation, traditions, script, languages, food, dance, even making of their own resources. I mean, I never knew. I thought Kenya, your country, was the one that actually export a lot of flowers outside. No, but Ethiopia is one of the major countries that actually, supply flowers, and they have particular flowers. And let me tell you something. Addis Ababa means the new flower. The meaning of Addis,
Beautiful.
new flower. So that new flower actually is the perfume that you go to all the streets now. They plant gardens in the middle of the road. They have the corridor projects are where you have the pedestrian track. Then you have beautiful gardens where people can really relax. I went to those parks. I walked along with, you see young people in the gardens reading, right, and actually studying something. So honestly speaking, I don't know how to even start. It's not like I'm pouring all my emotions there, but I think if there is anything that we have to start from, is understanding Africa from the eyes of Ethiopia that was never colonized. I know
Righty.
you have to stop me, because you have to stop me to ask the other questions, because there's just a lot of stuff that we cannot digest in this session. But I'm saying it, and like, you meet people for the first time, they just adopt you. Literally, I have an Ethiopian family now. Just not that I knew them before we went there. No, we just met, after the conferences that I attended, and I became a family. And we've been always talking here on the Pan African Daily about adopting a family or adopting a village. Ethiopian, they have their own cotton that they make. They have the best coffee in the world. They have honey, traditional honey beer. And I drank that. I to taste all that. Like, it was so fascinating. There are different types of costumes made out of their own cotton, the different traditional root dances and everything. You will not find it in West Africa. We're too westernized. You go to restaurants, you see people are all
Right.
in suits, they put in cutleries there, and they know you go to a traditional ethnic Ethiopian restaurant, you feel at home. And then they have this culture of Rastafari. Haile Selassie was a Rastafarian. And this culture of Rastafari actually humbles people the way they are, the way they are raised in that kind of humility, and also being in their natural element. They have a whole village out closer to Addis Ababa that are really just for the Rastafarians. I didn't have to make time to go there because for me, it was not like I'm visiting. For me, it's home because actually what we did was to even have our office registered in Addis Ababa from, from our organization, the Africa We Want, and also the Pan-African Daily, because at the end of the day, every nation is in Addis Ababa.
Right.
Yes.
Alrighty. I think we definitely can join in preparations.
Yes, of course. We should not only, but we should actually um, get into the aspect of pushing our people more. I think we really need to give them a lot more reason to stay the way they are, not the different.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
yes, in our eyes, we're trying to modernize them. Um, but you could also see the role that the colonizers brought, to be able to separate them in between,
Right.
Ethiopia and its brothers, Eritrea. I saw a question coming there, and ordered the nations around them. All these things, we know where all these conflicts are coming from, and for whatever reason, like the Tigray conflict, the Amharic. Even while I was there, there was a conflict in the Amharic region, and the Somalia Djibouti conflict also, which we saw recently. Even the president of Turkey had to mediate between the Somalia and Ethiopian. Like the more Africa is waking up in every other thing, you also have other
Right.
battles to fight, to keep to keep it on the substance. So yes, it is a challenge that all these African nations are going through. But you said something that was very important, and that I realized
Okay.
in Ethiopia also, and the African Union. Like I said, we always have to understand the reason why is African Union actually located in Ethiopia, and what is the history behind, right? That is the hub of the nation itself. The African Union is a secretariat of the 55 countries plus its diaspora. How do you want to understand that? You want to understand that, like, all the member states are represented through a secretariat, and that's why the AU, or the commissioner for chairperson of the AU, is the one that is leading that secretariat. Like every business deals, every engagement, political issues are settled at the African Union because it's the secretariat of the 55 member states of the continent. And these member states are also represented by the African Union Commission. Like each country is represented there. If there are political issues or challenges, issues like conflicts, how do they all veto, to answer a common question? And if you look at, it's not only in one country, so you can begin to feel the challenges when you understand the mission and the objectives and the work of the African Union. So most of us, we sit here and we talk most of the time, oh, they are toothless bulldog, or they are. I think sometimes, like I
Okay.
said in the beginning, before we talk about this continent, we have to understand it's the second largest continent in the world. And you give its history added onto it, you begin to understand why it is so challenging, why no matter how Africa makes a foot or a step ahead, they're always going to be pulled by, by invisible conflicts and stuff like that, which is actually pulling it behind. So it's not easy. The what I found out was, even to come out with that agenda 2063 that the AU now, has put an Africa centered agenda. The impression I had during this conference was Africa is in control. Of course it
Right.
is. It is. The whole nation is coming to broke deals, to negotiate everything. I mean, who is the person that needs? The person that is in need is the person that goes to the doctor.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not. Most of the time we talk about, oh, African Union, oh, always going out to hold conferences and stuff. Of course, they don't. They go out because they're invited. But in their continent, they don't need that. So they don't invite anybody. You want us, you meet us in Addis Ababa. That's the
Right.
communication that I had. So we have to understand the complexity of this continent. We understand the challenges that the continent is going through. And we understand that if you give our history to any other person, they will not be able to be at the position where we are now.
That is amazing because I believe right now what a lot of young people are looking for is their cultural identity, which is something really beautiful to find because it connects you with who you are, your ancestors, and that is what Addis Ababa, that's what they
Yes.
have, right? They have
Mhm,
that. And that's what a lot of people who are basically going back to the African history, African identity, understanding who they are, understanding
mhm.
their purpose. That's what they're looking for, trying to connect with Mother Nature, the way things were done, the way things were appraised, right? Because we've been so westernized, Kenya, name it, Uganda, all these other, we've been so westernized. And if you have that craving and calling of going back to who you are, the African identity, understanding who am I think it's a beautiful thing to basically assimilate from Ethiopians because they have that and they've not lost it, right? So hoping they're not gonna be westernized also because you know, hoping that.
I think it there's a difference. There's a difference in that. We have been through it, and now we're
Yeah,
learning not to be through it. Our identity. They never lost their identity.
yeah,
Um, but of course, I think they were contaminated also. I mean, the one country that was standing and then mixed up with the other countries that were already contaminated. You can already imagine that they were contaminated at some point, trying to deal with all this global politics and try to, broker, have partnerships for developmental issues. For instance, now when you talk to the African, the young Ethiopians, I mean, I talked to a very prominent professor. They call him Gashe. Gashe is a title like a professor or scholar or Baba, but is somebody that is an academician of that level. He's retired, and that's the family that adopted me. And
okay,
he is creating an organization that is for the indigenous, the preservation of the indigenous cultures of Ethiopia, right? And these are the organizations that we're partnering with them. We're partnering with them actually, and these organizations should be multiplied on the entire continent and its diaspora. Because what is happening is we can sit and wish for everything we want for our continent. But if we don't make the move to make the right decisions, to start putting these institutions in place, we're going to lose it. I mean, you take Europe or you take America, every culture has to be preserved. We cannot just sit and just wish that we want to stay in a culture that was, how can I say, was destroyed. I mean, it is upon us and upon these elders, these scholars, to be able to put in to institutionalize this culture in such a way that, like we're saying, the curriculums in the school should reflect the indigenous culture knowledge. Okay, preservation of our artifacts, preservation of our dance system, of our
right,
spirituality, of our knowledge, of our science, of our technology. I was even told as I went to the library and I was doing a research, one of the oldest scripts, Ethiopian script, is not even what they're using today. They have their own writings, but that script is called the G's. They call it the G's. It's the old, and I think the first Ethiopian language. And that script is no longer in the museum because it was stolen and brought out to the West, and they took the Ethiopian intellectuals to teach intellectual about the scripts. And the scripts have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge uh, about indigenous medicines, about every single thing And this Professor Gashe is working on actually recovering the script. When I spoke to the director of the University for Ethiopian Studies, and I asked what was the way forward about it, even though they recognize the fact that it's really late into getting into it, but they did also recognize the fact that everything can be recovered. Okay, so that is not just, it's not just a matter of like the artifacts that was from the colonies that were colonized, but you can imagine even Ethiopia that was not colonized, that they could take its manuscript of the oldest language that interpreted everything ever that they are, was not, is not even under their controls and in their hands again, because they, and when I asked him, I was like, yes, through all sort of intellectuals. You see, this idea of our intellectuals coming out to study is not just studying but giving the knowledge, the indigenous knowledge of Africa out here, is what I think we are losing. And so trying to institutionalize and bring this indigenous systems and knowledge back to it, not that we will have to maybe live the way we used to live, or stuff like that, because that's what the young people are saying. Oh, do you mean that when we say we have to go back to our indigenous ways, we have to uh, go back to live the way our ancestors was living? And I said, yes, why not? I mean, we had a question and answer at the uni where the students came up and they were asking these questions, and I said, yes, why not? What is wrong with the way your ancestors were living? If there's nothing wrong with the way they were living, so be it that we actually could go out there and actually do the same thing. So, what are we saying? Our origins, our roots, our foundation, and even the motivation to understand that it took the whole world not to colonize that Ethiopia. And so it's the pride and the and the information and the empowerment that we have to give to an African, to the African child and the generation, your generation that is coming. So I think empowering this indigenous knowledge system is what is actually, Sharon, I hear your Cheryl, I hear your question, and that's the point I'm talking about right now. Now, sometimes, Ewoton, when we talk about empowering the knowledge of being who we are, a lot of us don't get it, that that knowledge is the economic power of a
Right.
person. I take an example. You have your locks. I have my kink on my
Yeah.
head. Right. It took you money to put it out there in that woman, in that salon, in that industry, in that business out there to get your locks done.
Right.
That is it. So it takes a whole knowledge of a people to understand the value system of the indigenous system to be able to put money where their interest is.
Right.
Interest is not adding up, we would all just be doing something else. It's the same thing when we talk about even finding out the reason why the colonizers came or why Africa was colonized. It never had anything to really actually do with hate. It
Right.
had something, from my opinion, to do with survival. But the people that could not survive and they needed a means of survival. Now, we reverse that chemistry to us today. And we say, if we could not survive, what is it that we're going to do to keep us in business and to make us survive? Is going back to our indigenous culture. Ethiopia produces the best leather that I've seen. They use even their leather. You go to the museum, they use the skin of their sheep or their goats to produce paper. And they're using it till today. It's nothing that has ever changed. Okay, they're still using the skin of the goats. They produce it, it's handmade. Ethiopia is one of those countries. Of course, I know maybe in East Africa, in Kenya, I've not been there, but in Tanzania, they have that culture. But Ethiopia does it with a passion. That's the only country in Africa I've been there that, they clean your shoes on the street. And like it's
Mm.
it's it's a culture. So people who actually, take care of their cleanliness from their feet are already people that were clean in the spirit. I'm sorry,
Right.
we're clean in the spirit. Most of us, we walk here with dusty legs and dusty, our sneakers in the street in Ethiopia. It's a culture. It's a culture. You see beautifully dressed women and men. You just go sit down and they clean your shoes. They wash your shoes for you. Now, the idea of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, I mean, you're Christian, what did that mean for us? So the symbol of cleaning the shoes of your neighbors and to look nice is not just because your shoes have to be clean. It has a spiritual meaning, in the
Right.
knowledge system of the Ethiopian. So there's a lot that we have to learn. Honestly, I'm looking forward that the first group of us here should visit Ethiopia on Africa Day. And that's one of the things that I
Right.
had to put on that tour to bring it to us, because it is just more than just going to visit. You go
Hmm.
now, they have a modern museum, and that modern museum is in respect of the heroes and the heroes that fought to defeat, to keep the Italians out of Ethiopia. And that museum is actually humbling. But apart from that museum, it's a modern one. We have the original museum where you find the first ever Homo sapiens that actually made us to say we are humans. It's in the National Museum of Ethiopia. I've visited Ethiopia. I mean, just for knowledge, this is not my first time. This is the fourth time I'm going to Ethiopia. And each time I go to the National Museum to visit the Queen of Humanity, Lucy. Okay. She's the bones and everything are right there. So if we don't start, my dear Ewaton, by knowing just this history that we keep talking about, lying there in the museums, lying there. I mean, in other museums you go, you would see artifacts. I mean, other museums that I go to. But Ethiopia is
Right.
the museum that you see the first human lying there, which actually is the origin of all humanity, the oldest ever in the world. Okay. So where do your
Right.
history start from? Your history starts from actually when we start talking today of Pan-Africanism, we talk about the knowledge of who we are and stuff like that. If we don't go into this indigenous knowledge system to actually see the proofs and
Hmm.
to find out for how many years, how could Ethiopia defeat Italian with its mighty army, with its gunpowder and everything, just with small arrows and bows? What was that
Right.
force that actually made them? And
Hmm.
everything is lying there in the museum. So I think knowing who we are, being proud of who we are, getting to understand where our origins, we must begin to visit. We must go out. Most of us are sitting on the keyboards and talking about Pan-Africanism, about African unity and stuff like that.
Right.
But go down to your roots and visit this thing. I mean, I'm telling you, come back a different person.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah. It's a lot. Just imagine in this couple of days, I didn't have to spend any. You come to Ethiopia, you feel at home. You are at home. And then another thing in terms of business that I try to find out, you cannot just open up a business in Ethiopia. And I'm saying you
Okay.
cannot, just because Ethiopians had learned through that defeat to protect what belongs to them. You understand? Today we'll go to Ethiopia. I mean, I remember I went to to one of the sites that I want us to visit. Is called Entoto Village. It is actually one of the national parks out there, a little bit like 5 kilometers out of Addis. And when I went there, I had to pay to access it. And the when you're Ethiopian, you pay, say, 200 birr in their money, in their currency. And me, I was supposed to pay 1,000 birr. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I supposed to pay 1,000 birr? And she is not paying that amount. I said, yes, because she's Ethiopian. I said, so what? I'm African too. You understand? Like I'm beginning to say, but I stood there. We had a conversation with that, the one Africa is in my head. I don't want to get any barriers when I go to any country. But later on, I looked back, I said, yes, of course, we can all be Africans. But these are people that fought to keep these parks and everything. Even if I'm African, I come in, doesn't just mean that I have the privilege to just walk in like an Ethiopian. At least some credit should be given where it's due. When we go to every other place out here, that's what we do. Why not Ethiopian? And I'm like, that is smart. Of course, we have to put money into the system to do those preservation. After all, we did not lose anything. We didn't suffer anything. They suffered the loss and every other thing. So you understand?
Right.
So those are the kind of steps that we start respecting each other, respecting our continent, and everything starts with the respect. Us saying our
Yes.
identity. Go ahead.
That is true. Everything starts with respect. And it's amazing if all of us kind of like go back to our roots, because that's one thing I've really heard you talking about in regards to what Ethiopia is. They're so rooted in their culture, they have not lost that, which for most of us, we've lost theirs because of what really happened. But still, right now, I believe ignorance can be a choice because we have, thanks to technology, we can really go back to understanding who we are and also mix it with the urbanization of doing things and redefine the cause of who we are. And I believe with traveling in the most African countries, literally, let me just say Africa because we're all Africa, that'll literally help us feel and also be grounded with who we were and how we are right now. It's really important to make that point and to make it like a very tangible aspect of your reality when you're traveling to your brothers and sisters' um, countries or places to basically experience every bit of it. It's different. Even the fact that you're the way you're talking right now, it's different from someone who's never traveled there because you've seen it, you've felt it, and you've experienced it, right?
Yes, of course. I mean, we went in a delegation. Let me just show some pictures that
Okay.
we had out there. I mean, just a little bit for us to have an idea. There are a lot. There's a whole full documentary that is coming after the whole trip. But I love the fact that you initiated. I mean, the hosting of this question and answer, because like Dr. Tata, is I know there's just a lot of things that you have to unpack. But before we even get there, we just want to get a one-on-one and questions and answer on this trip before we will get to other stuff. And I truly really thank you for that initiative. I mean, you who came up
Sure.
with it. So let me just start from the beginning. It's a little bit kind of
Okay.
like to give you the sequence of it before we enter into that. So what took
Okay.
me to Ethiopia? It is this conference. Wait, I think I have to kick myself out. So, okay, that's the conference that actually took me to Ethiopia.
Okay.
The PIDA Week. The PIDA Week is a conference from the Africa Union about infrastructure, water, energy, communication, and everything. So this is a mega high level conference that actually brought participants worldwide. And it's actually just presented the infrastructure, a strategy of the continent. Like I said, when we are talking about this Africa, we have to be mindful of the fact that it's the second largest continent. Even though we have the privilege as sons and daughters of Africa to actually just talk about the Africa, if we have to first of all go to that drawn line of respect for what we're
Right.
talking about. That's also one thing that starts with our identity and humbling us
Mm.
and stuff. So during this conference, I met this great lady. Oh my God. I think
Wow.
I had to put this on the, because now it's coming up under the clips. I'm so sorry. So that's why we gonna see it. I had to put it on overlay. Wait a minute. I'll get it. I'll get it. Just a minute. I'll get it really done. Okay. So she's now like in the background. All right. If we get it on this, then we get her here.
Alrighty.
That now I met this powerful African queen. I mean, we heard about her, but I had never had the privilege to meet her. I didn't just meet her in Addis Ababa. I met her already in Limpopo when we went for the awards. She had an honorary award as myself, you know.
Okay.
So, but she is the queen and the founder of Agenda 2063. Of course, we'll have to break these things down in other lectures and stuff, but I just want us to be able to get acquainted with the phase when we talk about the mothers of the continent and the work that they do. Most often, we actually could not measure up with it. We sit and ask questions. What are African mothers doing? What are the women of Africa doing? What they spend their time doing? Like the war, the conflicts on the continent. What is going on that we don't hear anything, about Mother Africa? She is called Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. She
Okay.
is the only woman that had sat on the chair of the Africa Union. The only woman, that had been as a chair on the chair or the commissioner chairperson at the secretariat, and she was there from 2012 to 2017. All right, I think you know that phase. So we actually, this is the Africa Union building in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This massive structure, as you see it out here, is just on like a loop on the camera. But when you go there, I have a lot of images and videos that we had out there. But it is massive. You cannot comprehend it. Of course, I know Africans are going to be, oh, it was built by the Chinese. So what? Yes, we contracted them and they built it, and it belongs to the continent right now. I can tell you, I see the documents now. So sometimes we just talk, we gather information from social media and stuff and just talk about it. So this is the African Union building, a very big mega structure, and has even the older part of it behind, and then the new one that you can find on it right now. So wait, let me
Beautiful.
take this off first. So now we went into, oh my God, these are the ones that put it behind the water. It's really just going to be difficult for us to get these other pictures. I wanted to show this one. Oh my God. And I load them all on overlays. They should be on overlays, because on overlays is where we'll say it. But anyway,
Right.
yeah. Um this is, I wanted to show you the men of the continent that are
Okay.
representing in this house, and then I wanted to also show you the women. So give me some time. I'm loading that up too,
That's
that
okay.
image
Take your time.
on the overlay, so we can have just an idea. When we're talking about this continent, we have to really speak with it now with a lot of respect, because just sitting and saying all the things that we know about it and never
I
been there,
know.
see the work on the ground, feel the spirit in the place, look at the challenges. I mean, it's so easy to just sit
Yeah.
down and we would talk about this thing. So, yeah, this is the image. So, this one looks like this is the major powerhouse of the continent, right?
Okay.
I mean, of course,
Right.
you can see small me here. I mean, big me here. But it looks, that's the man. That's how the PIDA week and the representative and from the president of Ethiopia to all the leaders that were gathered there. I mean, they're talking about the infrastructures of the continent. You can imagine when I talk about infrastructures in the 55 African countries. How are the roads, the new roads, the airport, the seaport, everything going to look like in Agenda 2063? This is the kind of major things that they're talking about in this conference, okay? And
Sure.
you could see Ethiopia has a new president now. We know it used to be a woman, but now we have the man. This is the tattoo from your left, if you can see. And then we have the tall AU chairman, Excellency Farki, there in blue. I think he's the tallest there. Now we come to
Okay.
this other picture. We have the women of the continent. When I say the women of the
Beautiful.
continent, it's because these are the women. I mean, the next forum that I attended was on women for peace and security on the continent. And like I said, all the time we used to sit and just ask, like, are there not leaders on this continent? Are there not women on this continent? What are the women actually doing with all these wars and everything? But when I visited and I attended this 2 days conference, which took place from the 5th to the 6th, I'm telling you, my whole idea, my whole perspective, my whole everything knowledge about the continent and its women and their roles and their position completely changed. Okay. I'm saying it because you're talking about the information and the knowledge that we have. When we don't have this knowledge, we would never even think that Africans are doing something. We will
That
always
is
see
true.
it because we don't have a media that actually puts this in the forefront. And the African Union is a whole massive structure, like I said, controlling the 55 member states. It's not just a walk in the park. It's not just a union that we just think that, we could just go there and just talk some things that we don't know. Okay.
Mm,
So the role that the women are playing in terms of conflict, mediation, bringing the grassroots movements together, it is massive. I had so much respect. I was so humbled to get into these kind of structures, to get insight, to find out what are the things that they're doing on this continent that we never hear about them and we never talk
right.
about them. And we just think that, oh, the Chinese are coming, taking our resources. Oh, look at our infrastructures, our this and this and that. It takes a whole mega structure and a system to put that. That is why I show you these images, is where respect starts. Okay? The African child has been left in the dark. He doesn't know her position, doesn't know her space, doesn't know her role, doesn't know what is going on. He is confused. She is confused. She doesn't know what their mothers are doing. All they see are the negative images or the one-sided images that are being balanced left and right. And like we just stay like you don't even know what is going. Who are we? But you see, actually, the work that your leaders struggling in their own way, lack of, coming out from just a 60 years period from independence, which must have not even had to begin to address issues of infrastructures, issues of colonial debts, issues of illiteracy, issues of climate, issues of disasters, issues of wars, issues. I mean, you can already just feel it. And being in that space to be able to understand and to feel it, it's already giving you your identity to understand and have respect. Once you have respect, that is the only time you begin to actually humble yourself to understand, yes, I am from this continent that is rich and whatever, but we have challenges and things that we have to work on. Correct. So a visit, like I'm saying, we're doing a tour to Addis Ababa to find out about our roots, our culture, even business opportunities or whatever thing we're doing. But also to get an insight into what is the Africa Union, what are they doing, how does their timetable looks like, attend conferences that are going on there, what are the challenges that we're going through. It makes us humbling. That's where our identity start. Our identity is not only going to happen that we go to understand our origins of our culture. We're already dealing in the 21st century where structures have changed from the way they are. So,
Right.
preserving our indigenous cultural knowledge, we also have to marry it with the development and the technology and the everything, the modern system and standards of life, and the challenges that these governments are trying, or this continent is actually trying to also meet up with global challenges, as well as still keep, so you can you feel can you feel the narrative from the way I put
Yes. Definitely. Definitely it can. It
because
basically shows that it kind of mirrors how other countries can be. That's
Mhm,
what I'm getting from everything that you're talking about regarding Addis Ababa. It's
mhm,
possible,
mhm.
right? It is
Yes,
possible. Yes, that's what I'm getting from all this conversation.
yes, it is
Yeah.
possible. It's not only possible, but it gives us an insight. Like I said, the AU being positioned at the in Addis Ababa gives us an overview of the continent, its challenges, its solutions by itself, and how they micromanage it. But Ethiopia itself, like a small hub, gives you already it being in that hub, pushing forward for development, pushing forward to get its infrastructure, and at the same time fighting all these invincible wars that they are going through. It's not easy. It's easy. I mean, to just sit and say my economic reforms, or my educational reforms, or my technological or my innovations and stuff like that in another Western country that actually had advanced, at the expense of even this continent that we're talking about, but bring us down. And so I think the African child has to understand the dynamics, the functionality of its continent, the importance of being an African child. That
Yeah.
has not been given us. That has not been given us. The fighting exactly why the leaders are struggling to build its
Mm,
young overpopulation that is growing, the biggest in the world. They're also fighting to be able to see how they do. They're still not having their own money. Imagine they're still not having a
right.
one language system. They still don't have a one passport system. They still don't have the infrastructures that they need to be able to push development or to start mining. When we talk about our resources and minerals, yes, we do have it, but we don't have the capacity to mine these resources and sell it at a market price. And so that's why at a certain time or in the beginning, we have to compromise to say, okay, you have the technology to mine. We don't. We're still busy
Yeah.
trying to get out or to heal. So I think those are the kind of information that we need to start educating ourselves to be able to own that identity. It's diasporas. Look at the contribution of the African diaspora to the continent or the migrant community. I already told you approximately, not facts on facts, the African global GDP is trillions, let's just say 3 trillions. But the diaspora itself contribute or contribute, let's say 90 billion of that amount to the continent. So the diaspora is the number one stakeholder of the continent. So imagine if we were structured in the diaspora to say, okay, that is our own bank, that is our own money asset structure in the diaspora that we're bringing to the investment of the continent, the story would be different,
That is very
right?
true.
So not only the Africans on the continent are going through these challenges, the Africans also in the diaspora, either we're facing racism or we're facing colonization or we're facing discriminations for all sort of things. The African is always in the point of facing one challenge or the other that doesn't give him the possibility to just have a cool mind and move forward to just enjoy the riches of the continent because of the wars of the past, because of the wars in the present, because of its history in the past, which is just 60 years. 60 years is nothing, okay? It's really nothing as compared to everything that this continent has lost. So it's a lot of work that we have to do. But like you said, it's a good work to do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I think with me, that's all I have for now in regards to the questions. But I believe as Africans, really have to focus on what we have. That's the most important thing. If we just focus on what we have, what we can do, that's it.
If we focus on what we have and what we can do, that's it. And the passion and the purpose I see in you, the young generation that is coming up, it's amazing. It's crazy to see how we are beginning, to get it. Just to understand it is a whole lot to
Yeah.
understand it. And also, like we see the example even of Ethiopia. Look at the Sahel nations. I mean, in how many years, in thousands of years, that these countries have been under this colonial pact, and just three nations, now five, because we see this the Chad apparently is joining, Senegal apparently is joining the Sahel nations. And we've seen what Ibrahim Traore and his other two brothers have been
Mm,
able to do, particularly him, in just a short time. In just a short time. So it is possible. It is possible that this Africa that we wish and we dream for is the Africa that is happening in our eyes right
that
now,
is true. Yeah. It's literally
isn't it?
happening. Yeah, it's literally happening right now as you're talking. It's literally happening. There's been an awakening and it's still there permeating to the people who are answering the call.
So, what do you think we need again to convince you that this is the way we have to follow? We have to look at the new leaders of today. We have to look at Ibrahim
Right.
Traore. We have to look at the
Yes.
new leaders of today. And we know that even all the other leaders, no matter what kind of struggles and challenges they're going through, whether it's through corruption, whether it's through bad governance, no system is going to last forever. They already seen
Mm,
how the young leaders and the ones that we should be channeling our energy to, why we still support our elders. One thing we have to understand as Africans, like I said, when you say your house is trash, the whole world takes your house to be trash. And I don't know any single economy in any single country in this life or on earth that doesn't have problems or challenges. They just don't say it. I mean, like I told you, if you see the way we parade and we expose ourselves, if you look at the Chinese are they've been trained not to speak, whether it is for justice or not for justice or for what or for what. I also had the opportunity in Addis Ababa to meet Chinese youth, and I had to
mm,
question them just to find out already how they also think and what they know about the continent. But you see, the same thing that we're running away from is the same thing that they're coming to. You understand? They're coming to. And I asked them, what are you doing on the continent? Oh, we're here. We have a business here. I said, like, how? How did you get a business here? And stuff like, yes, because we're looking for survival. I said, what do you think about Africa? And you just come for business or you also think about the people? Just tell me, like, have a small talk. And I was shocked what these guys say. They're the Gen Z also. But they told me, look, we are Chinese people. We don't even have the privilege to stay in our country because we have to survive. In Africa, it's the only one of the places that we can survive on. And then I
okay.
said, but wait a minute. The African people think that you are so advanced, or the young people, you're so advanced and they need to copy anything for you. They said, no, we also were enslaved and it took us 300 years for what we see today. So if the African also, we just believe that we're even faster from what they had to be where they are. But in their own system also they see that they're having a lot of challenges. They said they've been on the continent for more than 6 years. They have never seen their kids or their family or anything because they have to fight to survive. And they work 24/7. But have you seen Africans that work all the time, every time in the night? Because we are really still privileged and luxury to be on that continent where we have the spirit of family, the spirit of, togetherness and unity. And the moment we start begin to follow all these crazy developmental structures that tear us apart, one day definitely also will come to that kind of a system, which is what we don't want. Do you get the point?
Right.
Over
I
to you.
think I'm
I'm
done with my
learning.
questions. I'm done with my questions for tonight.
Oh, thank you so very much. I mean,
Yeah.
I think these are conversations that we have to hold. And it starts also, like we said, Africans have to travel. We see even a Chinese, they had to travel. They had to move around the world, copy what others do, and then include it to their own. Does it mean that they lost their culture? No. So I also think it is not a bad idea. Africans are traveling in the search of knowledge, and that's what the intelligence that we have in the diaspora and on the
Right.
continent can only make this continent to be, I mean, this most successful continent like what we already have now. We're already succeeding in a lot of areas, but the only thing is we are not communicating where we are succeeding. Like I told you, women are so engaged in conflict management on the continent more than any other thing. But it's always challenging to manage something that you don't even create. And the more you're struggling to manage
Mm,
one, another one is always coming. So it always keeps Africans in this turmoil of problem solving than actually bringing in that continent, that they want, that they enjoy. But of course, to be honest with you, what I also saw is the spirit of relaxed. They're so
mm,
relaxed. To be honest with you, my dear, you go to Africa, they don't hurry. The way they walk, I mean, like when we come from the diaspora, we just kind of like quick, 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 but they take their time. You understand? Ethiopian people are beautiful at heart, in spiritually, physically, the women, and I mean, they're gorgeous. Their natural beauty itself already give them that advantage. And it's also one of the countries or the nations in Africa that has all the human species. Ethiopians have white Ethiopians. I said white. I didn't say Caucasians. You understand? They have the Bantus, they have the Arabs, they have like all the different cultures in DNAs. They have it in Ethiopia. You see a Bantu person, a black real one. Then you see a semi-Nulic person. Then you see all of them, all the cultures of the world in terms of DNA, they have them in Ethiopia. All right. So I can
right.
imagine why people actually like feel home there, or they you read and they have this amazing food injera. I mean, like,
Right.
that's also one thing with us. We have different tubers and food types in West Africa or East Africa and stuff like that. In Ethiopia, they go by their injera. They eat it first to 31st. I mean, the whole time that I was in, it's spicy, not spicy that is hot, but they have natural ingredients. Like the first time you land in Ethiopia, you eat it, you're gonna run to the toilet and you think that maybe, but it's detoxing your system. And after that, you're never gonna feel like it's just the way it is. You go to the restaurants to the bar, they eat with their food. Like we sat on on a dining table, a Wharton, and like we're eating, the African culture of feeding somebody.
Yeah.
It's a do it in broad daylight. Like we're eating, first of all, we eat all of us in the plate, you understand? Like we eat fufu, any other thing. We eat every other thing. They eat this with their hands, and you literally will see somebody like, I will rub my pot and I feed you, or I feed an elder, or feed. It's still
Right.
the culture. Something that, in the West, or when we are out here, we begin to look like, oh, that is primitive. That is not culture enough. I'm telling you, in public. Like they feed you. You're eating with somebody. It's just a culture for me to take my own piece of fufu and put in your mouth, in the open space. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing, absolutely. And I was like, I sat like, oh my God, I don't even know where I have to start with. You know, it, you see the pride, like it's part of them. It's not like somebody is doing something like, okay, let me show you. It's just a natural thing that just happens. You sit down with the elders, a young person would come, greet the elders, and the elder would feed you and you would feed them in a public space. Where have you ever seen that? And so that's why I'm saying preserving our culture and be proud of it. Any Africans that moves up to that step, you're already, on the right
Yeah.
track. And I think we can learn a lot from Ethiopia. I'm really putting out a tour package there for Africa Day
Mm,
May. If we don't succeed to do it this year, we're going to do it next year. But I think we could already start exchange programs. We don't do inter exchange programs.
yeah.
I don't know whether it happens on the continent. Why must we always want to do exchange program from the West? We have just a lot to learn from the different African countries, 55 unique traditions, culture, food, music, the indigenous cultures. You go to their libraries, we have just so much to learn. I mean, only within us. Ethiopian alone has 82, I think 80 or 82 different tribes. Imagine. Cameroon, my country, has 230. Kenya, research Kenya, your country, you will see how many different indigenous tribes.
Yeah.
Imagine that I don't even know my own 230. And then we go to Ethiopia 80. We haven't even finished. So what are we looking for? Studying what? You understand? So exchange programs, university exchange programs, um,
Yeah.
uh, different learning about different cultures. I think that's also one of the bonding that we need to start looking out on, because we haven't even started to do a research study on the different types of India. Even us in our different countries, we don't even know. So because of the Eurocentric template of our educational systems that we had, we didn't have the time and the knowledge to actually sit down and like, yeah, but what is the difference between me? And once we start going through those indigenous knowledge system, we'll come back to one thing. We just one. All right. The culture must have moved, or something must have been taken out, but it's still the same. It is still the same. So it is important, and you would just find yourself in it. You would find yourself in one of these tribes. Like I said, all the indigenous tribes are really like bundled in there, but you would find them. You find yourself, you just find that, oh, you belong to this, or you belong to all the other African Bantus, like from Kenya, from all the other countries, from West Africa, from Ghana, that we met there. I'm telling you, it is crazy. It is crazy how everybody just comes and just melt into it. I mean, we come from West Africa, we see ourselves, we know ourselves. But you see, when we meet in Ethiopia, everybody is just Ethiopian. You want to dress like them, you want to eat like them, you want to talk like them, you want to like, but the only difference is we don't understand. We actually don't understand the Amharic, which is also one of the language that was lobbied to be one of the main languages of Africa Union, right? I hear somebody
Right.
say, if
Hmm.
there's a question here, I'm sorry, if Ethiopians fought, of course, Ethiopians has fought war, they fought the Italians. Um, there's a question here, if Ethiopians fought war since from before even getting to the Battle of Adwa. I mean, the first king, uh, the kings that started before Menelik and the others, they fought war. They fought the British army, and before defeating Ethiopia, Ethiopian was Italian. They had fought wars with the British army. I think one of the kings before Menelik that lost that war actually killed himself. You know, I will put it in a documentary. That's why I don't want to share all this information with you right here. He actually killed himself just because of the shame that he was defeated. You understand? And he killed himself. But not just the Ethiopians. When we say the Ethiopians, I'm talking about the great women of Ethiopia, the wife of Menelik II. I'm telling you, he was the one that led the Battle of Adwa. And even the other woman before her led a troop of about 300 women armies, okay, against, I think it was the Egyptians or the Israelites. And they came and they looked at them. They all were like statues. They were all on their elephants standing there. So it's not just today. It's not just the battle of of Adwa. You understand? Africa had always been with these invaders. The history, some of the history that we are actually learning or studying today is way deeper. Most of the things are left behind, which we have to find out for ourselves to be able to take this continent forward. So I know there are a lot of questions because I actually was focusing on my host, Ewoton. I could not actually like like actually go down to you in the chat, but I think um we have rounded up in every other thing. If I did not really get to your
Yeah.
question here, tomorrow we're still going to continue on the part two. And I just learned that our sister Reparation, his internet was not good in in Ghana,
Okay.
and even Venice. All of
Right.
them, yes, all of them
Oh
were
my
kicked
gosh.
out. But of course, it was
That's
your
all
show.
good. Yes. That's all good. But I'm excited to learn more about your experience. And I believe it's literally time for us to step out of our comfort zone and literally start experiencing our brothers and sisters' cultures for us to really understand who we really are.
Absolute, absolute. I mean, like if you think if we go on this, and that's why our work has to be more in the fields now,
Yeah.
trying to actually come out with this real facts and history. Like I said, if I see from the manuscript that I got from the from the Pan African Center at the museum in Ethiopia, you could see from all the speeches that were made on that day of the formation of the Organization of Africa Union. I'm telling you, you would cry because the only thing is you would begin to ask, what happened? What actually happened after that? I mean, I have all the scripts of all the presidents that arrived, even Haile Selassie's own opening speech and the closing speech and the follow up speeches. You could feel that oneness, that bondness, the determination in their spirit for a united Africa. They had just one single agenda. The way they called themselves brother, the way they called themselves brothers. You understand the way they embrace themselves, from the pictures to the videos to the signatures to everything that was done. You could feel that bondness and that oneness in the spirit. And then you begin to ask, what happened? Where did the betrayal came from? What started happening and making some changes? What actually happened? You understand? So it is that bondness, that spirit of going back to that, to that period where they met and sat and said, we are going to make this continent one. So whatever happened or whatever challenges that they went through is just what we're saying now in history. Ewoton, are you here? It's like you're phrasing. Okay. I think she's freezing. Oh my God, Sister Vename, thanks for having you here. Yes, Cheryl, it's that spirit. Like I tell you, it's awesome. I mean, what I could figure out from the speeches, and we're actually going to dissect them from the different presidents. All the speeches had a common message in it. The fact that they met there and they shared their passion for this African knowledge, for this African system. Like they call themselves literally brothers. And you could see the gift that were given His Emperor Haile Selassie. All of them came with gift. They were thankful that they could meet in Addis Ababa, that they could sit in that conference room, and that they could hold a declaration. I have that declaration. Okay? So that is where we are. That is the power of who we are. That is where our knowledge comes from. That is where that spirit that we have that we have in us. And I think once we know that intention, whatever thing moves, whatever thing went wrong, whatever thing actually happened, it's that first intention that matters. That intention to unite. That intention that all of them from Egypt to Morocco to Algeria, all of them that met on that fateful day, delivered those speeches, signed everything. Just like the Queen Mother, Dr. Nkosazana, that I just showed her image here, when she was the African Union chair, she just went back into that spirit and said, our forefathers met, our leaders met, and they said they wanted an Africa-centered organization. They wanted an Africa-centered agenda for the continent that is driven by its citizens. What are we doing about it? And that's how they came back to the drawing board. It had taken the power, the spirit of a mother to reflect back and said, but what did our leaders wanted? And when she came in office from 2012 to 2017, she actually made sure they had to sit together and hold up those talks again and came up with this new flagship project called Agenda 2063. And what you see, like the infrastructures or the Women for Peace and Security, she did that. She actually appointed the envoy. And on this conference in Addis Ababa, Women for Peace and Security, her term of office, and she's called Madame Benita Diop, she's from Senegal. She was the one that piloted this to bring all the women, the grassroots movement together. And they actually focus on the peace and security. Imagine you're trying to fix something that you never ever create. And because they understood that the women had to sit at those negotiation tables to be able to make their voices heard. But how much can they make their voices heard if we don't work together, if we don't join them, if we don't unite in our own little structures, if we are not structured and organized and pull ourselves together? When we are distracted, a lot of things happened. Just like the Ethiopians, they beat the Italians because the Italians were distracted and they seized over that opportunity. When you're already coming, you're bragging already, thinking that you already know everything. Your enemy can actually really take hold on you when you're too confident and too sure of yourself. You need to make just one mistake and you're out of the show. So I think that spirit and everything and the knowledge that we actually gathered from that meeting in Addis Ababa, from the concept of trying to empower, not trying to, the Rastafarian movement, and giving them a space on the continent where they belong anyway, is actually the uniting factors. The Orthodox Christianity in Ethiopia is totally out of the world. You understand? So it is a lot to take out, but we need to leave our comfort zones as much as we can, to visit this place. And those of us who cannot make it for whatever reasons, we're going to bring these documentaries right at your doorsteps so we can begin to understand that what connects us is bigger than what we see. And what connects us is what we speak for ourselves. We know the power of words. The power of words, when we always repeat the fact that, we are not united, it's just the same. It's just the energy that you're sending out. So, but we read all these documents that we were united. We are united. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, we have battles that we still need to overcome. But of course, if you give our history and the challenges that we're going through, we are making so much progress than what we are telling ourselves. Respect, like I said, starts from home. Charity begins from the house. If you say my house is trash, the whole outside will believe you. So we have to start by actually just respecting this continent, its history, everything that it has gone through, and come together to support, to say there's no army that can beat us when we unite. If we cannot be the frontliner, we're going to support the movements that are actually, promoting peace, security, promoting freedom, all these grassroots movements. And there are thousands of them. You know, sometimes when we sit, it's easy for us when we sit, and particularly in these developed systems, we just want things to look at the way they are. But if you start to begin just to think the population in the rural areas on the continent of Africa and their challenges that they are facing, it's not your own. Their fight is not your fight. You're fighting maybe because of lack of job or discrimination. Those are privilege, those are luxury fight at some point for the royal woman in the village who is dealing with flood, who is dealing with wars that meet her at her doorsteps, who the grandmothers that are being burnt when these conflicts are going on, some disappearing. The number of children that we lost at war is alarming. So there's just a lot of things that we have to do. And the first thing is how we work together, how we come together, how we play our role in our own little color, how we actually really move ahead in our own corners. Okay? So it's awesome. I don't know, I have a caller on the line. Greetings, Brother Charles.
Greetings. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You're not on yet, are you?
I am. But I saw the Kwanzaa. I saw your videos of the Kwanzaa as you guys kicked out there. Can we talk about it later?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I miss you, sister.
I miss you too, brother. I miss you so much. I'm just giving feedback on Ethiopia, where I came back. I hope all of you are doing well out there, Brother Charles.
We're trying. Trying to keep the struggle moving forward. But I'll talk to you more later.
Okay.
If your folks online can hear me, much love to the African diaspora. We need you to stand up in 225 and be stronger than you've ever been before. African people are on the rise, and the world needs to know it, and we need to know it. Now let's go. Let's get it. African Renaissance 2025.
Yes. Thank you so much, brother. They're listening to you. Yes.
All right. Much love. I look forward to coming back on because we need to get our young people motivated into the STEAM and into using all of the AI and things for our propaganda and for our re-education as African people. We are the leaders that we've been looking for, and it's time that we know it and the world knows it. We don't need China. We don't need Russia. We don't need the U.S. We don't need France. Big up to the Alliance of Sahel states and all African peoples moving forwards for independence and true sovereignty.
Thank you. Big up, brother. Thank you so much. Love out there in New York and our families back there. Thank you so much, bro.
All right. Hopefully we talk tonight or soon.
Yes. After the show, I'll connect back to you, Brother Charles.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes, bye. Good. So that's our brother from the movement of the Sons of Africa and the other movements out there. You could hear him. 2025 is the project. 2025 is the project. And we would be live on Pan-African Daily from now till the 30th and until we break and jump inside 2025. It is the time, it is the year, it is the everything that you want to think about, the Renaissance of Africa by the African people. It's happening. You heard him. I'm just repeating. I'm bringing the news from the continent, and he's talking about the news from the diaspora. We are so ready. We were so ready long time ago. Like my sister Sherry always said, God was in the plan. God has always been in this plan. Otherwise, we would have been extinct. Give our history to every other civilization. So, what is it that we don't have now when we have us? We are the living proof and the example that this unity, that the spirit works. Mhm. And that we are here for one another. So I really want to thank you for your time. I know I have a couple of minutes again to go. It's been long, it's been a while. Maybe let's not just talk about Ethiopia. Let me hear about you. We must be there economically this time around. Of course, sister. It depends now on us. It depends on us. Like we said it, ignorance is a choice now. You had Brother Charles say, we have to pick up the technology that is coming up, which is not just sitting like, yes, we know where we come from, but the world is moving in the direction where the African youths have to take this technology, whether it's AI, and work it to our advantage, like Brother is saying. We're not even going to not be a part. There's just not going to be any way that we can be in. There's just a lot going on. And the young people are so awake. We're so happy for our mission. We're happy for our job. We're happy for every contribution, every support, knowledge, whatever. Went to the continent, I just felt I'm home. Felt I'm home. You don't have to worry about any. No. It's even just not possible. So, yes, what are we waiting for? The continent is ready. It depends now on us. We've talked about all these things. Our brains is still there? No. Mm-mm. We walked away from it long time. Every other country has its own history and its past, and they made it possible to change their history into what it is today. What about us? We had a great history. Now we're only even recycling that history. Okay. We had a great history until we left our own to go after the unknown. And now we've been bitten. We have to go back to what we know, isn't it? Yes. So thank you. I'm just trying to pick up some questions that I actually like missed here, but I want to salute all of you. Thank you and welcome you back here. And understand that we have a movement. We actually a movement. A movement. That's how people call us. We're just like, yes, we are on social media. Yeah, we're on social media, but we're a movement that is so powerful and strong. And a movement that is saying it is possible. Not just only possible, we were there, we did it, we built all this pyramid, we were there, and we are there now. And like my sister Cheryl said, my queen, and this time we're going to be on the business table. Mhm. We will. We will be on the business table. So I want to thank you. If we don't have any other stuff to talk about, we also would be talking about how do we move into 2025? You know, what is the spirit? There are a lot of things that we have to leave behind, but there's also a lot of things that we have to take into, this is the Gregorian calendar. I mean, we'll start celebrating our new year on the 1st of September, Mhm. 1st of September, Ethiopian calendar, African calendar. That's our new year. All right. So, for those that are gathering around family, celebrating, the end of year seasons and what kind of festivities they're making, we wish you all the best. And we're here together with one another, one love. That's the most important thing. If you're one of us, whether you are not in the celebration or not, we celebrate with you. As much as one of us is somewhere partaking in that, we are there. We're always there together. So it's a whole lot of advantage that we have. So Ewotan is apologizing. Her battery died. She could not have just left us like that, okay, without saying good night. So her battery died off. My apologies, my battery died. I had communicated on StreamYard before it was. Okay, good. So thank you, sister. I hope you're listening to us and you're watching us. And to you, reparations, I'm so sorry. We're going to repeat your show tomorrow. Your questions. So we already took the questions of Sister Ewoton, and it will be your turn and Venice tomorrow. And apart from that, the whole week we're gonna be talking to his ambassador Tony Jaja, who is the peace ambassador for the Horn of and East of Africa. So he knows a lot of this, particularly political factors. But I'm telling you, sisters, um, it was hard to be in the conference, the 2 days conference on women for peace and security. It was really, really hard because I was inside and my head was like, where are these conflicts first coming from? Where are they coming from in the first place? You could see the women of Somalia, the women of Sudan cry out, and like the world is not seeing them. So it is not just solving conflicts, but the root causes. Like you keep fighting something is going, and the same people that are coming and vouching for this peace conference are the same people that are behind, the wars. So how do you? Anyway, we believe everything. We believe in peace. We believe in security. We believe in and we understand that yes, we do have those challenges, and that these challenges is has to be taken care of, and nobody will do it for us Africans. Nobody. We have to do it by ourselves. We have to do it. We've always fixed it. Yes, we always fix it in any case, right? From the beginning, from the origin. We're here to fix it, and we'll fix it. So I want to thank all of you. I think 9 more minutes, but it's okay. I see all of us are comfortable. What is this brother Kandeke is saying, or sister Kandeke says, sister house is a need. Yes, queen size. It's a big need. It's a big need. You already saw here that you can host your show on our platform. And I said, we are coming with a network called Diaspora Africa Women Leadership Network. We have to fix our continent, and it takes a network of women that are leading organizations, businesses, okay, community works, churches, and everything. We need to bring our expertise on board. We need to bring our expertise on board. We need to bring all those expertise and skills that we use in solving other issues and leading to the needs of our people and our continent. If we can be CEOs and boss women of companies dealing with large amounts of budget, we can fix Africa with those same know-how. Yes. Okay. We have to. We had our sisters cry and like, where are we? And I was speechless. Okay. It's not one woman, hundreds of women. They spoke in their dialect, but you could feel the pain. You could feel it. I mean, just the other women just being there. And a lot of us want to serve. A lot of us want to work. A lot of us want to build. A lot of people are hands free and saying, show me where I can help. Show me where I can be. Our sisters, our mothers, our people are being bombarded. Some living on the street, some no food, no water, nothing. They need our help. And that network is going to be the beginning of the things we can do. A lot of things we can do. All right. It took the European women actually to build their countries. It took the Indian women to come together and restructure It took every mother in every system. And like our brother, Elder Marvin Gaye said before he left, he said, of course, this balance was missing a lot. And when I saw the work of the women on the continent, hey, my heart melted. Thank God we're also doing our own work in our own way. But honestly speaking, the women are doing magic. Even when they just gather and eat together and cry in their pain, it's too much support and too much love going out there. Okay? So yes, we're all Mama Africa. And we it's not just a program for women, because when we start speaking like this, it looks like all this kind of divisive language and everything. No, but we also had the he for she project that they launched in there. Men that came and said, you know what? Yes, we are behind it. After all, we don't have the spirit of masculine and feminine in us. We're one people. And so we have to make sure we protect our girls, our boys, our youth, our women, our grandmothers from all these scavengers. Okay? We have to fix it. And we can do it. We need to just come together. Ama Akwaba. Kandeke, thank you very much. Yes, we have to. The mother mind and the mother spirit is what is needed for this balance. We have seen it in all other civilization, in all other cultures, in all other nation building. The mother is the one that puts the foundation. Even if she only has to just if she only has to cook food. I saw in the Adwa Museum, when the men were fighting at the battle, they have some pots in the museum. That's when the women were cooking soup and bringing it to them. Like the Haitian women in the independence soup. It is coming up again in January. Professor Baina Bello is going to come again with our support for people for the independence soup. So Jamo, we know it for the Haitian people. Okay? So it's the same thing. It doesn't mean that when we say women, we're the ones, when we say peace and security, we have to hold guns and go. Of course, but we saw examples of the Amazons. It's not the first time that it happened that these queens went to war. Not the first. But no history is talking about it. No history has written about it. But there are lots from the Ya Asante wars. There are so many that went to battle. Now we don't need to do those kind of battles. We have technology. We have the power of unity, of coming together and speaking with one voice and elevating our voices. Okay, gives a lot of energy. Dr. Nkosazana Zuma said, when every time they talk about money and the African woman, the word microfinance comes up. And she said, what is micro about African women? I mean, that's the best quotation I ever heard. All right. Look, we're just looking forward to launch our website, and you're going to get all those news articles and everything that I'm telling you, even the documentaries and even the quotations. I'm telling you, this queen, she had been the leader of the ANC. She joined the student movement in South Africa against, the Black student movement that fought apartheid and everything. She's known as an anti-activist and everything, but she's the only woman that has sat on that African Union chair and brought things on track. Okay? So when she said, anytime anything comes, when they talk about money and African women, you hear microfinance. What is micro about African women? Okay? So that's the, that kind of spirit, like why micro? Why everything has to be small when it comes to an African woman? No. We need to come together, all of us. So a female can be male. Doesn't matter. We're not about gender or anything here. So yes, we have to. You have a document about Queen Menin? Of course. Queen, I need you here on the show. You have to bring that document. Let's study it. Because a lot of people never knew about it. If women choose fighting with no fear, Congo DRC, Sudan, and elsewhere in Africa will realize sustainable peace. I take it from Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of Republic of. She's always bringing us together when we start to tear ourselves apart. Of course, Benjamin, I hear you. It's true. She's also the woman sitting on the board of African Women in Leadership Network, the one on the continent. So we have to come with our own, the one on in the Diaspora Africa Women Leadership Network, because they already have the mother one, where you have Mama Samia Sulu, where you have His Excellency Sir Johnson Saleo work, this other one. And then now we have another, we have Dr. Nentembo now in Namibia, okay? And we even have the African Union chair position is currently vacant and would be occupied in February. And there's a woman also from Somalia that is on that board lobbying to be the Africa chair. Why not? I mean, I think we don't have any issues. We never had an issue between gender or this and that. We never had such issues. All right. So coming together for a common purpose and a common goal is what we've always stood for. Greetings, Sister Stevie. Greetings. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. So, yes, I think we've come to the end of our conversation for today. I want to thank all of you. Tomorrow, join us the same time again. I don't know, because it's a little bit kind of like dark earlier enough because of winter. We might start early. We must start at 5 p.m. For the continentals. Okay. And you would just join us from the diaspora. If not, you're going to watch the conversation on our YouTube. Please, it's been long. We've not been calling out to our subscribers to subscribe, to share, to support. We're going to get into it. It's the end of the year. And the end of the year, we have to show support and bring our contributions, to support our movement and our work and everything. I look forward to that. And I thank you so very much. Yes, we are strong and men too. Every other person has to join us. Like I said, if you look at our rolling stat, the one last thing I want to tell us, this Pan-African Daily TV, when I presented us to Dr. Nkozazana, she said, that's the face of the African woman. So we're making it an African women media. Doesn't mean that we don't have men on here. But at a certain point, is the awareness and advocacy and mobilization has to do actually with the face of the mothers. And we're really rallying behind all of them that are waking up and bringing all these institutions together to play our own part as women in the diaspora. Okay? So we'll have to find a time to see how we move around and with this movement starting here on Pan-African Daily, and we launch it, African Women Diaspora Leadership. Business women, women in science, women in literature, women authors, everything, grassroots movement from all parts in the diaspora. We have to mobilize to come together so we can work together with the same agenda that the continent has. And that is indeed a structure that we need to. Okay? So thank you very much. We see ourselves tomorrow. The woman is the first teacher. Oh, brother Shefsu Napata, how are you, brother? Long time. I mean, you went to the continent and we never heard about you again. Of course, I saw that you're also coming up with a radio station and something. Brother, tell us a lot about it. We really need to know how we can be a voice out there, how we can empower our women, engage our women to actually have a voice out there. Please give us the platforms to actually push this agenda on the continent where our women are really, really struggling to do it by themselves. We can do it together with them. Okay. So thank you, brother. You're great. I give thanks, Rastafari. Yeah. Hi, Ray. 2020. 4 is closing, 2025, a new level. Good night. All take care. Yes, of course. We just said about it, a new beginning, a new start, and we are already in. We are already in. Good night to everyone. I'm good. I'm in Ghana. You're in Ghana. Brother, let's catch this conversation after this, okay? Connect. Let's talk about the project in Ghana. All right. Good night to everyone. Good night to this beloved family. We're meeting us here again. Like I said, from today till we enter into 2025, it's non-stop on Pan-African Daily TV. So good night to us, and we see ourselves again. Yeah. Good night. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.